Well, hello everybody. You're watching 10 Minutes with the Coopers. I'm David.
And I'm Wendy.
And boy, do we have a good one for you tonight.
Yes.
Tonight we want to talk about when your title changed, but your behavior doesn't. Now, it's going to be super important for you guys to follow us here. And hopefully we can touch a little bit that will help single people, that will help married people. But again, when your title changed, but the behavior doesn't. Now, we're going to assume in this statement that everybody is in a committed relationship, understand what we mean by a committed relationship, understand what comes with the title of husband, with the title of boyfriend, girlfriend. And we're assuming that you understand that there's a degree of commitment that requires. That don't mean having side dates on the side or any of that. We've already made that assumption. So, baby, what we want to talk about, though, is when someone realizes that I thought a title changed, but then there's some behavior that doesn't match the title. And I think from a lot of reading and a lot of messages that we've been receiving, quite a bit of people are going through this issue.
Yeah.
Where one person is living up to the title and someone else is not living up to the title. With that said, baby, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about how you feel about that and how important it is to know what to do when you realize somebody's not living up to the title.
So if obviously if you're married, and this also pertains to being engaged, being an engaged couple with the idea that you're going to get married. When you find out that the behavior is not lining up with the level of commitment, then you have to ask yourself some questions. Is this person willing to change their behavior? Let me just give an example. So let's just say you're married and you're engaged. You find out your spouse, was unfaithful, and we all know that when the relationship has been violated with adultery. Because for me, I feel like adultery or being unfaithful is considered a huge violation. That's where you have to kind of pause and say, okay, well, what caused the violation? What caused my mate to go outside of the marriage or the dating relationship, in which we were trying to pursue marriage. If that person's not willing to face themselves, face what has caused them to go down that road, I think it would be a little easier in the dating relationship to say, I'm going to sever this and move on, and cut your losses, right? And adjust your expectations. Yeah. But when you're married, it's a little different because there could be children involved. Yeah. It's a deeper, level of commitment, right? Especially as Christians, you're entering a covenant with God. So it's not so simple because you've entered that type of covenant and that type of relationship that God deems as, very sacred. Very sacred. And so you have to, ask yourself some questions. Number one, why did the violation occur? You want to ask your spouse that question, that is. Can this be resolved? Yeah. Can it be saved? Can this relationship be saved? And that takes a lot of prayer, self-reflection, counseling, which I always encourage people to have premarital counseling.
Exactly.
Because when a relationship has been violated in that way, it takes a long time to build that trust back up. It's not overnight. And you also have to be able to, if that person is willing to change, has, asked for forgiveness, has sought the Lord about what happened, why did I go down this road, if that person has, sought out counseling and has truly, really dealt with themselves, the person who was violated or offended, if you will, then has to say, okay, I have to learn how to walk in forgiveness, which is not always easy. Because if your neighbor or someone has offended you, you know, you have to, it's important to allow them that place, if you will, I guess, recompense or, you know, reconciliation rather, to prove that they are, you know, they have been redeemed, that they have changed their behavior. And it's important not to walk in unforgiveness, constantly bringing up the past. That is something that could be a temptation. If you've, you know, made that decision that you both are going to recommit to this, you know, relationship, to this marriage, and you're going to make the necessary changes needed in order to have a healthier foundation and a relationship that's built on trust and loyalty and accountability and respect. And so it's important that if you make that choice, that you're willing to walk in that forgiveness. Not meaning you forget the behavior,
That's right.
but that you're willing to forgive the behavior, with the understanding that there is a level of accountability that this person has to agree to. For example, calling, you know, checking in throughout the day, you being able to have access to their cell phone. I'm just of the belief that what's the point of why do you have to have a password that I don't know about?
Yeah.
There's nothing for you to hide. Like for us, we have each other's passwords to our phones, computers. That I don't have an issue, you know, sharing that information with you and vice versa, because there's that level of trust, right? And you know, just making sure that we're holding each other accountable.
You said something super important there.
Okay.
When I don't want to pass corresponding behavior. So if someone has made some mistakes, there's a price to pay with that. Now the Bible does say that God hates divorce. So since he hates divorce, he hates the activity that will put you on the divorce road too. So you can't hate something and just say I hate it, but you hate everything that's going to put people on that road. Infidelity. Even the Bible says, you know, when that occurs, that's grounds for divorce.
Right.
So if he hates divorce, he hates us putting each other or putting people on a pathway that I've got to walk away from this. One thing I wanted to touch on with title changing and behavior not changing. So if a person comes into a relationship and they carry in pain, sometimes you don't know how much pain they have.
That's true.
So they may have to go out every weekend and have a drink. They may have to go out every weekend and listen to some music. And with that comes temptation.
Yes.
And so sometimes assessing how much pain a person has can also help you understand how much risk you're going to be exposed to as the person that's going to fall in love with them. If they've not mastered their pain, if they don't have a good grasp of I have pain here, and that pain means I have to medicate myself with either some chick or some guy. I have to medicate myself with, like I said, alcohol and partying. I have to medicate myself with a lot of different things. You don't know that sometimes. It doesn't materialize when just the title of that's now my man or that's now my wife, you know, my husband or my wife. You know, we've been dating for, 3 years before we got married, and we'll be married for almost 24 years. 24 years
in August.
In August.
Yeah.
And with that, we know you've taken a very good look at some of my pain points, and I've had a very good look at some of your pain points. And if the two of us listened to everybody, we wouldn't be here together today.
No, we wouldn't.
We wouldn't be sitting here trying to encourage people today. And I think we've walked in a measure of forgiveness for each other.
Yes.
We've walked in an attitude of understanding that, hey, I'm accountable to God first. You're accountable to God first.
Right.
And if you blow it with him, if you blow it with me, you blew it with him first.
That's true.
And God is great at making sure he doesn't leave his children just at risk.
Right.
You know, so just to kind of turn the circle, 10 minutes, and we know you guys want more out of this 10 minutes with Cooper, but we're going to turn the corner here and kind of really bring this back to everyone listening to us.
Okay.
If you want a marriage that's going to last a very, very long time, first of all, the title marriage is not going to do it.
No,
you know,
not.
Saying that's Mr. Cooper or Miss Cooper, that's not where it's at. There's a commitment that comes with that.
Exactly.
There's a price to pay that comes with that. So if you handle your pain one way, if your title says, I want you to be the most important woman to me, and you say, well, that means you got to come home and can't go to the club anymore. I have to make sure I don't want to go to the club anymore.
There's a level of respect that comes
There's
with that.
There's a level of respect that comes with that.
You have to, as a former pastor of ours put it once, or maybe it was his wife, but you have to be willing to die to yourself and your own needs and desires so that you can lift up and focus on the needs and desires of your spouse. And that's being able to sacrifice sometimes.
Yes.
Sacrifice, okay, well, my wife wants me to, in my case, if I wanted you to go and look at model homes with me tomorrow, Saturday.
Sound like I gotta go look at.
And you have to sacrifice, doing what you would normally do.
I don't have to go look at model homes tomorrow.
I'm giving an example.
I know.
Being willing to sacrifice, right, for our spouse. Being into your mate.
Yes.
And letting them know that you value them, right? You honor and respect them.
Yes.
That's important for a lasting marriage, a lasting relationship. Being able to make those sacrifices for one another, which requires you to die to yourself, essentially, to humble yourself, die to yourself and your own needs and desires, and not focus on you so much, but shift the focus and focus in on your mate.
I agree. And that's a good place for us to stop. Last parting words. If you want to match the title of husband or wife, you're going to have to die to yourself. You're going to have to deal with your own pain. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's our story. And as we always say, to be or not to be, we choose to be.